This is the Grand Tapestry podcast, brought to you by My Family Channel. Each one of our elders' stories is a unique thread in the grand tapestry of American history. In this podcast, we will explore them one by one, to honor them, and to gain perspective through their experience.
Hello and welcome to the Grand Tapestry podcast. This is Todd Smith from My Family Channel, and we are here today with Miss Tommie Houston from Magnolia Springs, East Louisville in Louisville, Kentucky. And hello, Miss Tommie. How are you today?
I'm well, I think, to be so young.
All right. Well, first of all, let's ask the question that everyone is wondering, and you've probably been asked hundreds of times. Where did the name Tommie come from?
Well, I'm really not sure. My mother's name was Minnie Thomas, but she didn't like the name, so my dad called her Tommie. And so I think that's where my name came from. But I have had fun times with it and then confusing times. Occasionally I get mail, Mr. Tommie Houston. And when I graduated from high school, I got all kinds of material from boys' schools. Wouldn't it have been fun if I'd showed up?
So that's actually your legal name?
That's my real name.
Oh, wow.
I have a unisex name. My middle name is Lynn.
Okay.
So I'm Tommie Lynn, and that's what I was called until I went to college. Everybody called me by my full name, but that was usual at that time.
Like that Tommie Lynn?
Yes.
That's kind of a
what
southern...
everybody called me.
Yeah. That's kind of a southern thing, isn't it? The two names,
Yes.
Tommie Lynn. Where were you born?
I was born in Sulphur, Kentucky, and that's in Henry County, and it's a very small town then, and it still is, even smaller. Probably not 500 people.
Oh, wow. That's pretty small.
Pretty small.
Did you grow up there as a kid?
No, when I was about 4 years old, I moved to Campbellsburg, which was also a very small town, but twice as big as Sulphur. Mm-hmm. But when I lived at Sulphur, I lived there because my mother said she didn't like the town, and so we moved to Campbellsburg because that's where her hometown was. And when I was growing up there, I also had a younger sister who is still living. And I was kind of a bad kid.
I can't imagine that.
My parents said two things I did. One thing, I ran away from home a lot when I was between 2 and 3 years old. It was a small town. And so I would walk to town, get away from home, and sit up on the park bench with anybody that came by. And my parents said that I was known to make up stories and tell tales that were not so.
When you were 2 or 3 years old?
Yes.
Wow.
And so finally, because I was running away from home so much, they put up a fence and a gate. And then I got stuck in the gate, and they had to take the gate apart to get me out.
Gosh.
So I guess I was sort of a piece of cake to raise at that time, but I think I got better as I got older.
Sounds like you were a little bit maybe high maintenance as a youngster.
I think I was.
Did that settle down a little bit as you got older?
Well, I think it did. I don't think I told the tall tales that I told when I was little.
And where did you grow up when you were in school and high school?
I grew up in Campbellsburg.
Okay, so you stayed in Campbellsburg.
Which was about 10 miles away from there. And I went to a school. At that time, there was no kindergarten. And the building where I went to school had all 12 grades in it. Mm. And so I graduated from high school in Campbellsburg, where I started in the first grade.
Now, was there a separate class and teacher for each grade?
Yes, the grades were on the first floor. And then when I was a freshman, I got to move up to the second floor.
because you hear about the one-room schoolhouse in the small towns. Is that before you, or was that even smaller towns than Campbellsburg?
I'm not sure that I understood your question.
Well, we think of schools being in these small towns a long time ago as just this one-room schoolhouse where you had all the kids together, no matter what grade they were in, one teacher, one room.
No, we had different teachers at different grades.
Okay.
And in my first grade, I had a bad experience because I had a very elderly teacher who really should have retired. She taught my mother.
Oh.
And she said she stayed to teach my sister and me because it felt like her grandchildren. She was never married. But the first week of school, I felt like I'd already failed because somebody threw an eraser and she didn't know who did it and nobody confessed, so she spanked us all.
Oh.
So I went home and told my parents I'd already gotten a spanking and I didn't do anything bad.
Yeah. Boy, they couldn't
I was
do that.
relieved when I moved up to the third grade. She taught the first and second grade, so I was relieved when I moved to the third grade because then I had a nice teacher.
Well, can you imagine a teacher nowadays doing that? That would be
Well, I don't think she would still be there now, but she was a very unusual person. She started a mission church in Africa and helped other children, but she was just very disagreeable and really was not right for small children.
Yeah, that's, interesting how, at such a young age, you really don't want someone like that.
It was kind of scary.
Yeah. I had one of those too. So can you tell us about any special memories from your childhood? Anything stick out that you want to tell a story about?
Well, not anything really particular. I enjoyed attending sports, and we didn't participate in any sports in that school because there was nothing for girls. Now, when I got to high school, I did play volleyball, but it also made us feel like second-class citizens because at that time, when we had a basketball game, you had the B team first, and then during intermission, the volleyball team played, and then the A team played basketball. That was 3 ball games people had to sit through with the.
And you were the halftime show?
Yeah, we were the halftime show. And I remember our clothes, the volleyball outfits were so ugly. I'm glad I don't have a picture of it.
Oh, gosh. What did you all do when you were teenagers? What did you do for fun?
Well, to have a date and go to a movie, we had to go 12 miles in either direction. We'd go to Carrollton, where they had 2 theaters, and in Eminence, where I later lived, they had another theater. And my date, I would cost him about 35 cents. It cost 25 cents to get in the movie, and then you'd get a Coke and a candy bar after the after the movie.
25 cents to get in the movie? Don't movies,
And
like $14 now, right?
And the first time before I ever started dating, though, I had a friend whose mother would not let her go out on a date unless she had a chaperone. So her date, I thought this was really crazy. The date would come by and pick me up, and we'd pick Lois up. And then the 3 of us would go to a movie. I don't know why the guy put up with that, but he did. I always felt kind of funny being, the third wheel, but
Yeah.
her mother was very strict.
Yeah, sounds like it. In some cases, maybe not a bad idea. I don't know.
And then after that, she ran off with her boyfriend and got married in the middle of her college, and her parents never spoke to her again.
Oh, gosh.
So that was kind of a weird situation for me, for my friend to lose her parents that way.
Wow. kind of the strictness kind of backlashed a little bit.
It was terrible.
How about brothers and sisters, your mom and dad? Tell us about your family a little bit.
I have one sister, 2 years younger than I am, and she's still living at home. My mother never worked. She was a wonderful cook and homemaker, and my dad was a country doctor.
Oh, wow.
And it sounds strange now, but he carried a saddle in his car in case he had to ride a horse back to somebody's house.
Wow.
And
That
I
is
know
so cool.
one time he made a home call up the Kentucky River, and they picked him up in a boat. And
That is amazing.
it was.
So he not only made house calls, he made horse calls.
That's right.
Like that?
And
Yeah,
he made the house calls. He delivered babies in the home.
Wow.
And he had 2 medical bags, one for his pills, and the other one was for his obstetrics work.
That is
Delivered
just
babies.
amazing. I don't think there's any doctors like that today.
No, and if he were treating a family that was poor, he wouldn't charge them. My mom kept the books at home, and at the end of each day, they would work on the books. And when she set out the bills, he would go through his books and tell her who to charge. So he was not a wealthy doctor.
But he sounds like a good doctor and a nice man.
Well, he was much loved.
Yeah. How about your husband, your children, your family life?
Well, my husband was a doctor also.
Oh,
But of course, this was much later, so he was a country doctor, made home calls. Also, he was head of the anesthesia department in the Shelbyville Hospital, and there he delivered babies. And at that time, he made calls at the hospital twice a day. He went in the morning to see his patients, and then he went back again at night, which is unusual.
wow. Busy. How about your kids?
I have 3 sons. My oldest son is an attorney in Scottsburg, Indiana. My middle son is a pediatrician in Owensboro, Kentucky. And my youngest son has his own consulting business here in Louisville.
Oh, good. And I know you have a lot of grandchildren because you have a lot of family members on your
I do.
family channel.
I have 6 grandchildren, and I have 13 great-grandchildren.
Wow.
And the last 2 were twins.
Busy family.
Busy, very busy family.
Did you work or were you a stay-at-home mom?
Well, when I married my husband, he was still in medical school, and so it was necessary for me to work. And I had taught school the year before our marriage. And then when we moved to Louisville, I decided that I wanted to change, so I worked in the bank a while. And then I went back and taught English in Louisville until my first child was born, and then I never worked again until I moved to Eminence, where my husband started his practice. And I was a substitute teacher for 14 years just because there was nobody else to call on. But that was my favorite thing to do.
But you weren't mean like your teacher. You were probably nice, right?
Well, the bad thing about being a substitute teacher in Eminence, you never know if you were going to teach in the grades or a subject in high school that you weren't prepared to teach. Because my college major was English and biology, which is kind of a strange combination, but I practiced taught in English and biology.
Well, let's talk about, you have a certain flair for technology that is so interesting to us because, you know, we made our system with a person in mind who maybe struggles with technology or finds it confusing or difficult or frustrating, which actually everyone finds technology frustrating in some way, but we wanted it to be very simple. And I think you've shown us things on our system we didn't even know were possible.
It just happened.
So let's just talk about how you've seen technology evolve over the years, and what are your thoughts and feelings about that? You think it's a good thing, or do you think
I think it's a wonderful thing.
Okay?
And I've given my sons credit for anything that it can do with my computer or cell phone. They bought me a computer, and I said, I'm too old, and I just can't do this. And they said, yes, you are. So they persevered, and I had a wonderful neighbor who was really good about computers and technology. And so between their help and my children, I enjoy it.
Yeah, well, you seem to be really good at it. So we're actually a little light on programmers right now. If you need some extra money, we might want to hire you.
Well, actually, I feel like I'm just scratched the surface. I can't, because occasionally I have to have some help too, particularly with my cell phone. Something happens to it, and I have to call somebody to.
We've been talking about this lately. I don't want to put you on the spot. We've been talking about the idea of having like a resident ambassador or something that, like if a new resident comes in or if anyone has a problem with our system, My Family Channel, there was to be another resident here who knew how to use it and was comfortable showing the new resident. Do you think you would mind being one of those people?
I wouldn't mind to try, but I don't feel like I'm that good.
Oh, gosh. Well, if someone didn't understand how to look up the activity calendar or get their messages, you could show them.
Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah. Well, sorry to put you on the spot, but
Oh, that's all right.
it just made me think of it because we've been talking.
Well, it
about
would be a challenge.
Well, I think it would be nice to have someone that they knew, to show them instead of us who they don't know. Okay, so knowing that this will be listened to by future generations and great grandkids, how would you like to be remembered by your future descendants?
Well, I would like to be remembered as a loyal friend, but also as a good mother and a good spouse.
All right, that's quite a lot. Sounds like a very good goal for everyone to strive for. All right, Miss Tommie, any other thoughts you want to share with the world and your great-grandkids?
Well, I really appreciate the Family Channel and the fact that I can see pictures of them. And I had just really enjoyed the fact that I can open my Family Channel and see what the events are of the day and also what I'm going to eat, because it seems like eating and sleeping is pretty important.
to everyone. Well, great. We're so glad to hear that you're enjoying that. And we just thank you for sharing your stories with us today, and hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Grand Tapestry Podcast, brought to you by My Family Channel. Please visit us at myfamilychannel.com and be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite listening directory.